I like your earrings, girl.
Thank you.
Bong. Welcome back to the channel, everybody. Moving up with the Miclettes.
Moving on up.
And my name is Joseph.
And I'm Sherri.
And thank you so much for being with us once again.
Welcome back, welcome back.
Yes.
So today, we are going to be talking about IBonds. This is something I had never even heard about until recently. And it's crazy to think of when you're in the know, you're in the know. You know what I mean? Like, once you hear about something, it's that learning process just starts from there.
Yeah. Shout out to my principal, Kevin Wan. Much appreciated.
Yes.
Yes.
So what is an IBond?
All right. So an IBond is a government-issued bond. Now, the I in IBonds stands for inflation. So this government-issued bond, its interest rate is actually dependent on the inflation that is determined by the CPI every 6 months. So the Treasury basically goes in and says, all right, for the next 6 months, this is what the interest rate is going to be. Now, that's a variable rate. And that variable rate, which we're going to discuss, is what determines the composite rate of that bond. And it collects that interest rate for a 6-month period.
Now, see, when he first told me about this, I'm like, there has to be something wrong with this.
Too good
because,
to be true.
You know, we've all heard of bonds, and we're used to the bonds, the paper that everyone's parents or grandparents got them when they were younger.
I had a few.
You know, I didn't know anything about them. I just knew, okay, it's going to mature in 30 years.
Yeah.
What that meant to me at the time, not much.
Yeah.
But, you know, after, looking into and researching what an IBond was, it was just, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Like, honestly.
When they say things are too good to be true, sometimes they are, but sometimes they really are that good, right? Now, I'll be the first to say, right, if you are more conservative or you just have a really low risk tolerance, this actually could be for you. And there's multiple reasons for that, right? And we're going to get into a few of those.
Exactly. This is something that is actually great to hedge against the loss of stocks, because even with these particular IBonds, once you put your money in, there's a guarantee that you're not losing any of your money. You're getting the interest, and it might not be as high, from 6 months to the next, but your money is not going to decrease.
Yeah. And if you actually trace the IBond interest rate, the composite rate over 6 months, and if you trace it all the way back to 1998, you will actually see that for multiple years, the interest rate, the composite rate, actually stays the same or fluctuates very, very, very small. At the end of the day, the IBonds composite interest rate is a lot more than what you would get with other bonds, and definitely what you get at the bank, putting your money in a savings account.
So talking about that, the rates.
Yes.
So for the 6 months, starting from November 1st until May 1st, the rate for 2022, so November 1st, 2021 to May 1st, 2022, is 7.12%.
7.12. And
that's for 6 months.
6 months.
So the highest high yield savings account out there right now, the rate is 0.50. So 0.50 compared to 7.12.
And that's guaranteed for 6 months. That's not fluctuating every month. This is locked in for 6 months, right?
Yeah, which is amazing, because even if it were to drop, the lowest it will drop was 3.56.
Yes.
So that's still higher than 0.50, even in a high yield savings. So consider this something like a super high yield savings account / CD, because there are limitations in regards to when you can pull the money out.
Yeah.
And we'll get into that next. So in regards to cashing in your bonds, you do have to hold them for a minimum of 12 months. If you leave them in for up to 5 years, there will be no penalty. If you remove them before 5 years, you will lose the last 3 months of interest. So even if, that's not really that big of a deal, last 3 months of interest, but you've gained so much interest over those 5 years.
Yeah.
So that's still a good takeaway from it.
Now, with that being said, something that needs to be understood is that the iBond matures after 30 years, right? So once it hits that 30-year mark, you no longer gain any interest. So if you want to cash out before 30 years, you get the interest every 6 months up to that 30-year mark, and you cash out whenever you like. But it matures at that 30-year mark. Now, other bonds, right, that you purchase mature at different times, right? You can get a 5-year bond, a 10-year bond, a 15-year bond, right? But it doesn't gain the amount of interest that these gain.
Yeah.
So you need to look into what type of bonds, if you're going to be in the market for buying bonds, which is going to be most suitable to you and which is going to give you the most return on that purchase.
Yes. So in regards to talking about the rates, how do they determine that, or how is that, applied?
So the interest rate on iBonds are calculated by 2 different interest rates, if you will. So the first is what is called a fixed rate. And guess what? That fixed rate is a whopping 0%. Huge.
But wait.
There's more, right? Now, the other piece of that is called a variable rate. And that variable rate is essentially the inflation rate.
Okay.
So that is the part that is always adjusted every 6 months. So currently, that inflation rate is 3.56.
Okay.
Now, the calculation is times 2. And that creates what is called the composite rate.
Okay.
And that composite rate is currently 7.12. That composite rate of 7.12 is the interest rate that is applied to your bond every 6 months, according to the U.S. Treasury, between November 1st and May 1st, like you said earlier. Now, if you go back and you check the data, that 7.12 composite interest rate has actually been on file for the last several years. And if you go all the way back to 1998, when these were actually introduced, some of these high interest rates go all the way up to 10% or even around 8%. So although they have come down since 1998, 7.12 is actually the lowest it's ever been. So even if you think right now, well, dang, 7.12, I don't know, it might go lower. It might. It could. Or with the way things are looking right now, with the Fed increasing rates because of the increase in inflation, that rate might go up. And so if you purchase an iBond between now, the date of this recording, right, January 28th, 2022, and April 30th, you might actually still lock in a purchase of a bond at 7.12. And then if they raise the rate between April 1st and November 1st of 2022, you might actually get in on a higher rate.
Now, see that? Oh, that sounds good.
Yep.
And I'd never heard of it.
Never heard of it.
Hey, knowledge. Yep. That's what they say. Knowledge is power. The more you know.
Each one teach one.
And that's what we wanted to do, today. Just provide the knowledge that we're learning.
Yep.
And see if we could help somebody else out.
For sure. And again, this is a very conservative way of not just holding your money, but holding it in a high interest way.
Yes.
Right. And so again, if you're very conservative, you don't have a very high appetite for risk, you don't have a high risk tolerance, this is a very good way that you feel secure about keeping that money while growing it at a steady rate.
Yes. So how much can you purchase at a time?
Great question. So you can purchase up to $10,000 in iBonds per person per year. Now, if you're married and you file joint, that means that's $10,000 for each of you. Now, there is a catch. What's the catch?
The second way you can purchase iBonds is through paper. But you can only do that for up to $5,000 and with your tax return. Mm-hmm. So if you are one of the lucky people who gets a tax return back in April, hopefully you get it this year. I don't know. But if you get one back this year and you want to purchase an IBond, you can do that and obtain it through paper if you don't want to do it electronically.
Yep. So that means that you can actually buy $15,000 worth of IBonds, or if you are married and you file a joint on your tax return, that's up to $30,000 worth of IBonds.
Yes.
So again, we're not financial advisors. We're not your financial advisors. We're just trying to share information that you can consider for your own financial needs.
True that, true that. And where would you get these IBonds, you ask? So you cannot just obtain these through a regular brokerage account or go to the bank to try to get them. This is something that has to come from the federal government.
Yes.
So you would need to go to www.treasurydirect.gov. And on there, you'll see a series of different bonds, and you can research and find out what works best for you and your family. And look at the page that has IBonds on it. You can look at the rate, and then depending on what time of year it is, if you're close enough to see when the new rate will be coming out, you can get your funds available for that. Or if you're like, you know what, let's get it started, then you can go ahead and just open you an account and purchase some for you then.
Now that website is really easy to navigate. It's super crisp. It's super clear. You're able to see everything you need. It even leads into calculations if you want to actually calculate what you might earn over a period of time. And if you want to go back and look at all the fixed rates and the variable rates over the last 22 years, all that data is available on that website. All right, so now the last thing that we want to cover is the ever important taxes. Everybody loves taxes, don't we? Yeah. So what are the tax benefits or tax implications that IBonds have along with them? Well, here's the beautiful thing about IBonds. With IBonds, you can actually defer to pay taxes when you cash out. Now, another benefit to the IBonds in regards to taxes is that it's only taxed at the federal level. So that means you don't get taxed at the state level, you don't get taxed at the local level, you don't get taxed at the municipality level, no other level. So the only way you're ever going to have to pay any form of taxes on the interest that you get is at the federal level.
Remember, it's only on the interest, not on not on the principal that you put in, just the interest.
Only on the interest. Now, there is another little side piece to this tax situation, and that revolves around education. Now, if you ever cash out your IBonds and use that with the intent for educational purposes, that could actually make you eligible to not have to claim the interest for tax purposes.
So hopefully all this information that we provided on IBonds is something that will be useful and beneficial to you, your family, or grandkids, you know, whoever you want to purchase an IBond for. If it's yourself, that's great. Family members, you can do that as well.
This information has us thinking about making decisions for our financial future, not just being able to secure our financial future within the next 8 years, but even after we retire. Now that we know about IBonds, this definitely has us thinking about using this as a strategy to secure money for our financial future, in which, again, we have said this multiple times, we plan to retire within the next 8 years. And so now we know that this option is available for us to not only put money away safely, but also to gain interest on top of what we apply into the IBond as its purchase.
So we do plan on opening our account very soon with Treasury Direct, and maybe we'll try to take you guys along, show you the process, just let you know how it goes for us. And, you know, because this is something that we are very serious about and just wanted to learn more about and then provide that information to you guys as well. As always, thank you so much for joining us today. Make sure you like, subscribe, comment down below. Let us know if you've ever purchased any IBonds or if you are aware of bonds or anything of the sort. And as always, keep moving up with the Miclettes.